Now that we've talked about code, about what code is and how it fits into Read 180, let's take a quick tour of the HMH Teacher Portal. The goal today isn't to teach you every feature of HMH. Instead, I want to show you the areas you'll use most often as a code teacher so that when it's time to plan a lesson, you'll know exactly where to go. We're going to start off by logging in. You can always access HMH through the green dot launchpad. Simply open this gray Ed application button using your green dot credentials, and you'll automatically be taken to your HMH Teacher Portal. Once you are in your teacher portal, you'll be taken directly to the home page. Think of the home page as your command center. From here, you'll access your classes, instructional resources, student reports, and digital library. Today, we're going to focus on these four main areas that you're going to use most often, which is the home page, the discover page, the bookshelf, and the reports. In the homepage, you'll find the My Classes section. Before you ever teach a lesson, this is probably the first place you'll want to visit because it's where you'll manage your classes and your students. If you click on View Class, you'll find all the classes connected to your account. From here, you can quickly switch among the class options that you have, and you can access your student rosters and open each different class. On the left side, you'll find a few different tab options. So the first one is assignments. Under the assignment section, this will allow you to view and manage assignments that have been given to your students. So this is primarily that can be used when you are getting ready to assign end of workshop assessments or interim assessments. The code progress monitoring assessments can also be found on Leandra Brown's monthly newsletter. Then you'll find the groups tab. Since code is designed to be taught through small group instruction, the group section is helpful to place and organize instructional groups based on student needs. So here we see that there's already a group set that was created. Here we have group 3, which are the code students, group 1, which is our comprehension level 2 students, and our group 2, which is our comprehension level 1 students. Right underneath groups, we see students. Within the Students tab, you can view individual student information and manage settings for specific students, such as language preferences and accommodations or supports to better support your student as they work on the student application during their software station. So here we have student, the username, the grade, where they are currently placed on. If you go to Actions, you go to Edit Student Settings. This is where you can manage specific student settings. So for example, this specific student, Brian, was an English language learner. He had the multilingual learner language supports in Spanish that were provided to him on the student application. Accessibility supports are where you can provide additional like accommodations or supports to students who are either English language learners or students that have a disability. So you can enlarge text, you can require the student to do recordings of their vocabulary to improve their fluency, to improve their reading. You can enable instructions to autoplay once they are logged in. You can change the writing options. You can adjust assessment and quiz attempts and minimum scoring. Then you'll find the placement button on the left side. The placement button allows you to review and manage student placement within Read 180. And after students complete their placement assessments, so like their map assessment, or if you are barely starting off, then they might need to take like the code placement assessment if they're placed into code. Most teachers won't really need to make changes to this tab, but it's just helpful to know that you have this option. You can also see under the placement method how you want students to be placed. Either you can place them manually yourself, or you can have the system place them based on their most recent MAP scores. As you see here, you'll have a green check mark that indicates a recommendation based on the student's MAP growth assessment. So if they demonstrated growth, then the system will recommend placing them at a higher level. They will have a blue eye if the system is recommending that we keep them in the same place because they probably just didn't demonstrate significant growth on the MAP. Then we have program settings, allows you to manage how the Read 180 program functions for your students. Most teachers don't need to make frequent changes here, but it's also just helpful to know. Whether you are in middle school, then you would be making sure to check off the Read 180 Stage B middle school tab, or if you are in high school, make sure you have the Read 180 Stage C high school tab checked off. The class setting is the very last button on the left side. And this allows you to manage the overall setting for your whole class. So if we click on Read 180, you can customize information specifically to your class as a whole. So these, you'll see this, they're the exact same things that we saw listed under the Students tab. If you make changes here, just know that it'll make changes to your class as a whole. Now that we've looked at how to manage our class and students, let's answer questions you'll probably ask most often. Where do I actually find information on my lessons? Well, you're going to actually go to the Discover tab. On the Discover tab, you'll see at the very top all the real books, starting with the first book on getting started that you typically use during the first week and a half of the school year, starting all the way through the end of Workshop 12 real books. And your code books 1 through 4. If you click on the specific code book you want to see, you want to go to a specific segment, you want to go to a specific lesson, you can click Open Lesson. Here you'll find information on the teacher guide. Within the teacher guide, you'll find the lesson objective. You'll see different vocabulary, any specific teacher notes or guidance that the system is wanting to give you, student-facing materials that students might be working on in their workbooks, and any additional resources like media. So like you might find videos on how to pronounce specific letter sounds. So here you'll see the literacy goals, information on this lesson, any additional teacher materials that would be beneficial. If you go to the next page, it teaches, it gives you guidance on how to teach the lesson in a I do, we do, you do type of style, and it'll tell you what the topic is for each section. So here we see identifying letters and sounds, identifying sound spellings, identifying multiple spellings, and then additional practice. You'll see an image of the workbook pages that students will be working on. It'll give you an example of how to review the lesson at the very end, any extension ideas, and how to modify the instruction for specific learners. Then we're going to go to the bookshelf. Another area you'll become familiar with is the bookshelf. This is where students access their independent reading books. Teachers can browse books by Lexile. So if we click under Lexile, we can pick books that are leveled between 800 and 999. Or for our, let's say, newcomer students, books that would be a little bit easier for them to be able to access. You can pick from different topics. You can pick different format options. This is really helpful, for example, on days where maybe it's like a shortened period and you're really trying to check in with students and see how they're progressing. And if they need additional support with comprehending the book that they're reading, you're able to access the teacher version. As you'll see, you don't have access to the actual quiz, but the screen is very similar to what students would be seeing. They would have the Read Now button, as well as on the left side, they would have the button for them to be able to engage in the reading comprehension quiz. Then if we go to the Reports tab, under the Reports tab, you would essentially be clicking the class that you're working on. You can see assessment proficiency, assessment average. You can see how students did on specific assessments that were assigned to them through the home page under the View Class and Assessments. You can also see program activity. This is where you will be able to monitor student progress throughout the year. So you would essentially be picking the class that you want to look at. You want to pick the program that they are accessing, the components. So either the student application, which is the independent software station where they would be working on the computer at their individualized level. Or you could do the independent reading to see how they are, what books they might be reading, what reading quizzes have they taken, which ones have they passed. You can pick specific students. I like to look at it from an all student perspective. So pick your class, pick your component, pick your student. You can view by totals, average or average total. I usually just do totals. During the school year, I usually customize a date range, and I'll do from like from Sunday to Saturday. For today's objective, let's just do the last 30 days and see what it tells us. So it'll give you the students that you have listed, the current segment that they're on, what level it is within the program. Is it code? Is it comprehension? How they're performing overall. On the student application, their status, whether they've completed something recently, when did they start the specific segment, when did they end the segment. and the total time spent. If you go to usage, this is where you'll find like how much time a student spent per week, right? So here we see in the last 30 days, this specific student was on the software program for 1 hour and 6 minutes. If we want to be more specific, this is where the customized date range is important. So let's say April 19th through the 25th, Sunday to Saturday, apply. So here we'll see during that specific week, this student here, she spent about 2 hours and 13 minutes throughout the week working on her software. I know that on Leandra Brown's newsletter, it typically says that students should be spending about 90 minutes on the software program. So here you'll see how many minutes they've done for that custom date range, and then how many minutes students have completed within the last month. You can also click on zone performance and see how students are performing in specific zones. This will let you know what areas students could be struggling with. Whenever you're wondering how your students are progressing, whether they're completing software lessons or if they're mastering skills being taught, this page on the reports is where you would go to be able to see that. So now that you've had a chance to see the areas of the HMH Teacher Portal that you'll use most often as a code teacher, it's your turn. On the next slide, you're going to work in groups of 2 or 3 to complete a scavenger hunt using the HMH Teacher Portal. Together, you'll explore Codebook 1, Segment 1, Lesson 1, Understanding the System, and use the checklist to locate lesson resources, teacher supports, and student materials. Remember, the goal isn't to race through to find all the information, but it's to become more comfortable with navigating the platform so you feel confident when it comes to planning your own lessons. So let's get started and let's see about having some fun as we explore.